Hello viewers, today I want to share with you why is learning about macroeconomics super helpful for steel geniuses. So I'm going to be using my macroeconomic edge GPT here. So the prompt is why is learning about macro so important for steel geniuses? Well, so it says right here, learning macroeconomics especially because it aligns perfectly with how their natural brain operates. It gives them an unfair advantage in the world, increased share price, risk, monetary storage, and shifting global flows. So since steel genius's natural thinking systems is the macroeconomics is the system. So steel energy is all about structure, time, and data. Macroeconomics is the big picture architect behind the economy, interest rates, money, supply, inflation, debt cycles, and trade flow. So it's essentially the operating system that how everything else functions. We can optimize, lower optimize for positioning in the broader economic stream. So as a steel genius myself, I've always wanted to know how things work. That's why I loved learning about how things operated, what are the details behind what makes something happen. And macroeconomics is essentially the system of how everything happens behind what happens with the economy. Like essentially, it's like the operating system of how money works, and it avoids catastrophic blind spots. Love precision, but the rules are fixed. Is that there's rules are changing, and there's just so many different rules, and how all these things change over time, and stability and sort of like holding too much cash and trusting this system during a dead Jubilee. So turn steel genius from back end operators to strategic advisor. So many steel geniuses in the basement without their ability to drive direction, advise contracts, debt, and economic conductor and timing. So all these different things about timing, cycles, business cycle bust and boom, the volatility. This is prices. You don't make money by doing more. You make money doing the right things at the right time. And this also is really key as well, is how do you protect, allocate, and avoid to mitigate risk, and turns you from a saver to a allocator. So it gives certainty in a certain world. Still types thrive in clarity, control, and facts. When you understand macros, you don't get emotionally swayed by the news or fear cycles. So you can see it's not capable of sequence predictable patterns. And this is something that I really wanted to highlight, is that ultimately macroeconomics is incentives and human behaviors. And human behaviors have not changed since our brains were first formed tens of thousands of years ago. And I'm actually going to put that as the next prompt here. So here's some of the summaries why lock the genius level stock optimization, become an allocator, anti position, cash flow, and if you're putting the first time studying, it understands, and you naturally you see how the structures around it. So let's take a look here. So can you explain human behavior and how it hasn't really changed much in few thousand years, and what can a steel genius learn from that, and how the patterns over time have been remarkably similar. this is where it's really key, because despite all our modern technology, AI, smartphones, human emotional wiring, fear, greed, ego, hurt behavior, status seeking, tribalism, has nearly remained identical among us. So what that means is that there's boom and bust, collapse, mania, panics, empires rising and falling, fiat money be devalued, and power centralizing, not overthrown. So look at this: from Romans to British to American, different countries, different cultures, different languages, different technologies, but the psychology behind the scenes is still the same. Can still just learn from. Fear and greed drives markets. In good times, people never end. So during the dot-com bubble, housing bubble, and everything. In bad times, they panic and sell everything. The COVID crash, 2008. So when bubble inflates, no one wants to miss out, and the crash occurs when no one wants to be the last one. You don't need to predict. You just need to observe sentiments and act the exact opposite. And this is huge. This time is different. So every time a bubble is formed, people justify with new tech, new economy, but the core remains the same. Too much leverage, too much optimism, too little cautious. It's like the long-term history. It gives you the pattern recognition to see when reality diverges from the narratives. So people trust authority too much in downturns. In times of fear, people crave certainty, often surrenders freedom from perceived value. So systems always centralize during fear, decentralize during stability. Track this pendulum and understand the direction of risk. Short-term incentives lead to long-term collapse. So leaders make decisions with quarterly wins, lecture cycles, not the structural integrity. Over time, this erodes sound money, trust, and institutions. Structure your wealth and business for long-term durability, not just short-term gains. And lastly, status. So what is ancient Roman economy? Chase status was gold, jewelry, land, blue check marks, and Bitcoin. Track where status flows, because money follows status. You can build that serves those flow. And what you could do, you wire for pattern, precision, and preparation. Understand human behavior over time allows you to build anti-fragile systems. Set up business with cash reserves, invest benefit from volatility, track time, for people panic, but systems don't if you operate. So that's kind of like the genius of being able to design the system that functions without depending on emotions. But all that is the history is data. And this is really powerful, where when you understand history, that is the true data of Roman debasement, the Weimar Republic, hyperinflation, demographic collapse, Bretton Woods economic shocks, and the situation may be different, but the underlying drivers are often identical. So if you look at this, your superpower is being able to recognize patterns over time. Fear, greed, herd mentality, power concentration in downturns, repeated boom bust cycles. This time is different. And you're going to see this a lot, especially with technology, the way that is just exploding right now. And there's going to be a next cycle when someone says this new technology is going to be the thing that changes. It's different. But at the end of the day, human beings were working with hardware that's over tens of thousands of years old, because our brain it's pretty much the same. It's been for thousands of years. So technology might have changed, but the thing is, we're still reacting and behaving the same way as if we were in the caveman days, where we still respond to fear, greed, herd mentality, seeking status, and all those things that if we were back in a prehistoric tribe, that we probably still behave pretty much the same way, but just with different incentives. And that could be a future video that I could create about explaining how macroeconomics works, breaking down into very basic concepts that a caveman will understand. And repeating cycles, you give us turning repeating behaviors into reliable structures and build them. And I want to share this with you because this is something that I feel like as a steel genius, we're naturally built to understand data and understand how things work. And by understanding macroeconomics, not in terms of the jargons or all those terminology, but it's just really being able to understand human behaviors and what happens when different incentives are presented in front of people, and how do those behaviors then drive the ultimate result based on those behaviors. And this is really powerful where when you're able to understand this perspective, it gives you a superpower that the other geniuses wish they had. For example, Dynamo is always excited, always just whatever is exciting to go after. Blaze loved talking to people, being able to always get connected with the people, and then they focus on what's exciting when other people are behaving that way. Herd mentality, for example. Tempo is someone that's a little bit more grounded and could see the patterns, but Steel is the one that puts everything together, and being able to understand this and being able to help other geniuses to understand what is happening when there is, you know, hysteria or panic, but also not get swayed by the narratives. So if you found this interesting, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll create more videos where we talk about how to understand macroeconomics, especially as a steel genius.